Hi guys, it's Aggie from Aggie's Language Corner. I'm a language teacher and I specialize in preparing people for language exams such as Cambridge or IELTS. And these two exams are the topic of my video now. I'll tell you about the major differences and similarities between Cambridge and IELTS. Starting with a similarity, both Cambridge and IELTS are available as paper-based or computer-based. Paper-based means that you get a printed booklet with questions and you work on that, and then you copy your answers onto the answer sheet at the end or during the exam, but it's all done on paper. Computer-based means that all your questions are on the computer and you put your answers on the computer as well. You type them in. However, spell checks, grammar checks, and similar tools are obviously disabled during the exam, so don't count on extra help. No, it's more like, I don't know, taking it on a kind of typewriter, rather than a modern computer. But it's good for people who are mostly used to typing rather than writing things by hand. Now, depending on which version of the exam you take, you get your results quicker or you need to wait a little bit longer in both Cambridge and IELTS. So in IELTS, you can get your results after 3 days. It usually takes 3 to 5 days to get the results if you take the computer-based exam. And if you take the paper-based IELTS, your results, your report comes after 13 days. If you take Cambridge exams, you wait between 2 and 3 weeks for the computer-based results, and for the paper-based exam, between 4 and 6 weeks. Okay. Another difference is that IELTS comes in two versions. It can be general or academic. General means it's a test of general English, whereas academic is mostly for universities, and the focus is on science from different disciplines. That can be a bit of history, a bit of biology, a bit of science. Other fields, you never know, because it's not connected to, let's say, the field you're going to study at university if you are taking IELTS because you want to go to university. Cambridge exams come in two versions, general or business, but you don't have the academic version. So if you want to take an exam because you're going to university, do check if your university accepts Cambridge exams or if they only accept IELTS. In IELTS, you've got no levels. The questions, the exam papers are exactly the same for all the candidates in the same center on the same date. And the levels are determined by your score. So you are given a band between 0 and 9, but you only find out after the exam. Whereas in Cambridge, you sign up for an exam at a particular level. You can sign up for an exam at A2 level or B1, B2, C1, C2, and they will be all different exams. There are quite similar formats, and Cambridge is making them more and more similar each time they update exams. But somebody taking an exam at A2 key will have a lot easier exam than somebody taking an exam at, let's say, C1, okay? IELTS is basically a skills test. There are 4 components: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, so all 4 language skills, but there's no separate element that would test your grammar and vocabulary. And that is the thing that is present in Cambridge exams. And sometimes, especially at the higher levels, it may not be people's favorite element. Is often seen as something difficult. But the positive side is that, okay, you are tested and the examiners, the markers, can see that you can use those structures. Whereas in IELTS, you don't have a grammar and vocabulary test, but you need to show that you actually can use it. So it's extremely important to use the correct grammar, the correct vocabulary to get as high band as possible, right? So something to remember, it's not necessarily the case of IELTS being easier because there are just skills. Most people taking it want to get a particular band, and you need to remember that to get this band, you need to show that your language is really as good as this band requires. Okay. Now, as there are no levels in IELTS, everybody will get exactly the same task in writing. So it doesn't matter if your result after the exam will be B1 or C1, you will have to write a letter that's a minimum 150 words and an essay that is minimum 250 words. And you are punished if you don't write the minimum 250 words or 150 words. Okay. In Cambridge exams, you've got different writing tasks at different levels. So just to give you an idea, if you're taking the lowest exam at A2, you're writing texts that are 25 or 35 words. Yes, you heard me right. IELTS was 150 to 150. A2 Cambridge is 25, 35 words, but then it gets higher. So at B1, you're writing 100 words. And at B2, you're writing 140 to 190, and higher at higher levels. Okay, so enough numbers. Speaking in IELTS is done individually. So there's an examiner and you are there, and that's it. All right. So it's one-to-one with an examiner. Whereas in Cambridge, you've got speaking in pairs. So there's an examiner and two candidates. Sometimes it can happen that there are three candidates, but normally it's in pairs. And that will also influence the criteria, because if you are speaking in pairs in Cambridge, there is a criterion called interaction. So how you interact with your partner also is evaluated. Obviously, in IELTS, it is not, because it's just you and the examiner. In IELTS, you cannot fail. There's no fail in IELTS. However, there's always however when I speak. You can't fail, but if you need to get IELTS band 5 or IELTS band 7, if you get a lower band than that, it effectively means failing, right? So your certificate will not say fail or F, but possibly the number, the band you get on it will not be exactly what you wanted it to be. Whereas in Cambridge, yeah, you do pass or fail. There are 3 marks, 3 grades, A, B, or C. A is the best. C is, well, still a pass, but not fantastic. It's good. I'm not saying grade C is bad. But it's possible to get a D, in which case you fail. So if you sit a C1 exam and your language is not good enough, you will get, say, a D, and your certificate will say that your language is B2 level or possibly B1 level based on the results of the exam. Okay, now IELTS is only valid for 2 years from the date of the exam. Okay, then it expires, and even if you got the highest band 9, after 2 years, it means nothing, or it means very little, because maybe you can show it to someone and say, hey, I had that, great results in IELTS 2 years ago, which is still impressive. But Cambridge exams never expire. So once you get your certificate, it's yours forever. and you can use it for all institutions who accept it. Okay, so these are the major similarities and differences between the exams. I've prepared an infographic which I share on my social media, Instagram, Aggies Language Corner, or Facebook, Aggies Language Corner. It's available there, just briefly summarizing the points I covered in this video. So hopefully I've clarified what the similarities and differences between Cambridge exams and IELTS are. If not, if I've missed something, please let me know. I'll try to come back to it or reply in the comment. If you're preparing for Cambridge exams, my ebooks may help you. They look at the structure, they give you a lot of pointers about what to do and what not to do. And well, thanks. Bye-bye.